but there's a couple of things I'd like you to address, please, Kunio. There's a lot of anecdotal information out there, but if you could just update us on how you see or how you believe COVID-19 has affected customs administrations in Africa. And it would be great in that context to understand what role you think the African business community, along with the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, by way of collaboration, can do with you to, mitigate or address any of the actual and perceived downside effects. And just the second part of my question to you is, in your opinion, what is the real status of paperless customs and the paperless customs agenda in Africa? And again, please share with us what you believe can be done to accelerate a more widespread adoption of that paperless customs agenda in Africa. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to this important dialogue. And well, for WCO, Africa is very important. And when African Continental Free Trade Area negotiation was announced in 2012, immediately we have reinvigorated African Union Heads of Customs meeting. And one of the first casualty of this COVID-19 was that last month it was scheduled to have our African Union Heads of Customs meeting to prepare for the implementation of FTA and inviting Juan Keremene to our meeting. So that had to be postponed. It was too bad. But we believe in potential of Africa, so we'll continue to work on. Well, coming back to COVID-19, yes, customs is at the front line, and where many borders are closed, but closed for passengers, but they are open for trade. They have to be open for trade, especially for essential goods, relief goods, or medical supplies. And so customs is working on ensuring the movement of goods, essential goods, and also protecting society from any illicit trade, fake medicines that are now rampant. So this is what we are trying globally, and then we get the best practices from all over the world, and we put that best practices and our analysis on our public website, so that customs and other government agency and also business community can make reference to what is the best practice for customs. Because Africa, yes, you are suffering from COVID-19, but the infection rate remains still relatively low compared to other regions. And partly because you suffered a terrible outbreak of Ebola 2014 to 16, so you are prepared, and the government take very strict measures to control borders. That's fine, but Africa should be prepared for the wave of COVID-19 coming from other parts of the region. So this is what we are trying to share our best practices. And we are now collecting, and in a couple of months we would be able to get some guidance, best practice guidance, what to do, including the trade recovery aspect. And then we want to share that at the regional level, organizing regional workshops in Africa, other parts as well, but perhaps virtually. We can't really move on right now. But in doing so, the most urgent matter was that to identify what are the medical supplies and other essential goods, and with our HS code, because otherwise you can't trade. So we worked very closely with WHO to identify essential goods, and then we made published that on our website. And fortunately, it is widely used over all the world, and especially in Africa, as we have a special project of helping Africa in the implementation of a harmonized system. Now we are thinking, considering of engaging African Union and regional economic communities and African member states to develop a more region or country-based harmonized system code to help them to identify medical supplies and essential goods. So this is the urgent matters that we have been doing. But at the same time, what is necessary is really collaboration. And it's not only customs at the borders. You have to involve others. So we issued a joint statement with the WTO to make sure that the customs and trade ministries talk with and ensure that their trade rules, customs regulations help to fight against the spread of COVID-19 in the area of trade. And also, we had similar joint statements, joint letters with transport organizations such as International Maritime Organization, UPU, is Postal, Universal Postal Union, ICAO, and others. So that collaboration, coordinated border management with other agencies is really important at borders. But another important aspect is the collaboration with business. And weekly, we have a dialogue with our private sector consultative group to get what is happening on borders, including Africa. And then how we can respond to that. That is what we are doing. This custom business partnership is very important. And one milestone is what John Denton talked about, ICC WCO joint statement focusing on SMEs, because SME is so important, and also trade recovery, because we need to think about trade recovery. So this is what the WCO is currently doing globally, but also specifically thinking about Africa, because Africa could be vulnerable. And actually, in 2014-16, we, with the outbreak of Ebola in West Africa, we worked with UN OCHA, its Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, and with the funding, we helped those countries how to ensure the movement of essential goods, but also protecting customs officers and other border officers because they are exposed to that COVID, at that time, Ebola. And I'm thinking of doing similar things together with African Union and seeking donors to come up with a project to really address that COVID-19. So this is what we are trying, and in our best practice, now I'm going to more on digitization aspect, and one of the best practices is, of course, social distancing, but also customs should distance from big traders. You don't require really physical presence of traders and paperless, so that you can keep a distance. This is a very important best practice that we are promoting. And in more general, how we can support Africa for digitization. What we see is that, of course, we need a technological aspect, more investment in technology. But what is important is institutional arrangement or institutional collaboration, so that business can have more connectivity with customs, business, including the banking system, so that we can go for really contactless trade, and also avoid cash payment, and rather it is just a transfer of cash through banking system, so that avoid any handling of cash on the spot. And so in that way, we would like to involve more business, but also other government agencies, because customs is processing not only customs declaration, but also other government agencies' licenses, authorization. Those should not be paper. Those should be also automation is necessary. So this is what we are pushing, and single window, in the end, this would be the single window. This collaboration, so what we advocate is whole of the government approach, maybe moving towards e-government, and this e-trade is part of that, and also involving business, because in doing digitization, sometimes in Africa, I see that it is more politically decided without proper consultation with the stakeholders. This is what we want to avoid, and get that institutional collaboration with stakeholders. And speaking of e-commerce, e-trade, of course, e-commerce is rising, and it is coming, and already I see the arrival of e-commerce in Africa. And e-commerce is great, but in the end, even if you order things and payment through internet, in the end, it is the actual goods that arrive at the borders. So how we can facilitate cross-border movement of goods coming from e-commerce is very important. With that in mind, we have developed a new framework of standards on cross-border e-commerce. This is about how best we can facilitate that movement of e-commerce related goods while using our digitization, meaning that it is the data that we want to have access, so that we can analyze risks entailed with those goods, because always there is a commercial data attached to any movement of goods. And in that way, we don't have to actually inspect all goods, but rather facilitate the most part of legitimate trade. So in that sense, this e-trade or e-commerce is very important for us to partner with and provide the future for trade environment for Africa, which is not only intra-African trade, but also it is connected to the external community and global trade. So this is what we would like to work together. So thank you very much for this great opportunity for collaboration.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.